Hello, welcome everybody to the Asian American International Film Festival panel. Our panel topic today is online distribution for shorts. My name is Jason Sondhi. I'm co-founder of Short of the Week, and I am joined by several extremely talented and esteemed panelists that I want to shout out just now. We have Maegan Houang. Can you wave hi? We've got Gayatri Bajpai, Nirav Bhakta, and SJ Son and Woody Fu. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for joining us on Facebook and or Twitch. I guess it'd be weird if you're trying to stream us on both platforms simultaneously, but either way, welcome. I'm going to kick things off real quick by just kind of turning it over to the panelists individually. You know, you can go to the website AAIFF.org and probably see a little bit of their bios, but I'll let them kind of introduce themselves in their own words. Do we have a volunteer to start? Okay, Maegan, can you go start and introduce yourself and kind of what brings you here and how you've gotten to where you are in your illustrious career?
Wow, that's very complimentary to call me illustrious. I think I'm here because I made a short film that came out last year on Short of the Week and played at different festivals. It was called In Full Bloom and starred the Vietnamese actress Q Chin. And I also directed music videos for artists like Mitski, Vagabond, Charlie Bliss, and I also have written for television like Counterpart and the upcoming FX show Shogun.
Amazing. Nirav, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Nirav. I co-directed and co-wrote Halwa, which won the HBO Visionaries Award with Gayatri. Take it away, Gayatri.
I'm Gayatri, and I co-wrote and directed Halwa with Nirav, which won Visionaries last year, starring the amazing actress Vijaya Kumari.
Awesome. SJ?
Hi, I'm SJ. I am an actor and writer, and Woody Fu and I, do I intro you too? Woody is a man, a human, Asian, an actor and a writer.
Yes, true. Most importantly, SJ is Korean and I am Chinese.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, so if you take nothing away from this, take that. Take our racial profile. We both met each other doing children's theater, and we wrote some sketches together that UCB produced, and then we kept making shorts, and we co-host a podcast with each other called Emotional Slut. SJ is, I mean, you had a short that went on.
Oh, yeah. I was here a couple years ago at Asian American International Film Festival. My short was called Sujong Dreams of Fiji, and it got the audience award, which I'm very proud about. And what else? Oh, yeah. So we made this. Is it 2 shorts or 1 short? Is it fucking Japanese?
I believe it's only fucking Japanese.
Oh, okay. So we made this short that's on YouTube called Fucking Japanese, and it is good, I think.
It is good, I think, also.
Is that an intro? I feel like I had to read. I was like, oh man, I should pull up my website so I could read my bio.
You're like, she's represented by.
Yeah,
we could do some screen share. Everybody pulls up their individual IMDb's. Yeah.
There we go.
I like fucking Japanese. Hopefully our audience does too. You can tell us in the comments. I'm going to chat with these folks for, maybe the next 30 minutes or so, and then turn it over to Q&A. So feel free at any point while watching, if you have something that you want to ask any of us on the panel, just type it away, and we're going to have folks on the back end kind of feeding those questions into our ear for later. So, as you can tell from those intros, we have some really talented folks with some really interestingly diverse backgrounds. So we're going to try our best to, synthesize all that into something that is useful. I think first off, I just want to kind of kick things off around the panel topic itself, online distribution for shorts. and leave it pretty wide and just ask each of you guys in order, you know, what are some general ways that the internet, online distribution, you know, what does that concept mean to you, and how has it facilitated getting your work out into the world in professional or other sort of opportunities so far? And I guess I'll go in the same order that you were introduced. So, Maegan, do you want to kick things off?
Okay.
I know. Actually, I should do like kind of reverse, like go
No,
up and down, because it's unfair to have you go first every time. But hopefully, we won't do too many of these round robin questions.
I can do it. Online distribution really just means to me a really good way to get your work seen, because I think we make our work for audiences, and I really love the festival experience of seeing movies in person and in a theater. But I've also had screenings of my work where there's like 10 people there. And so when you put something online, I think that you're just expanding the opportunity for people to see your work. So I've mainly relied on, at first, using Vimeo a lot to do that. And I also, since I work in music videos, like you are distributed online, that's where those are now premiering. So I was already very used to that type of experience when I was making a short film. And I think that just like festivals, putting something online is just about getting people to see it and hopefully getting some type of validation. And I say that with like a little sarcasm, because it's not about validation from what people like. Do people like me? It's validation of like, people are going to watch your short or your music video or whatever you make if other people think it's good. So if you can get other people to think it's good, then you're going to have more people watch your film. And so it's kind of like all that cycle. So I think putting online can help people share it and encourage other people to watch it, can help you put your laurels on so people think, okay, cool, like this is worth my 10 to 15 minutes of time to watch. Because that's really, I think, our goal as filmmakers, is just for people to see what we're doing.
Just to piggyback off of Maegan, yeah, online distribution or distribution in general, especially as independent filmmakers, it's about cultivating an audience. Like that's honestly the biggest thing for us as filmmakers, is to get our work seen, especially if our work revolves around representation or topics within our communities that we often don't talk about. Online distribution can also lead to social impact, in my opinion. I don't know, what was the other question?
I think that was a really good handling of it too, and that sparked an idea for me for later as well.
Like,
yeah, I don't know, Gayatri, you have anything to jump in?
No, I think you said a lot of how we came to it. I mean, we kind of came to it by accident, right? Because we found this contest, and I've made a bunch of films before, so has Nirav. Lots of them are really shitty, got rejected a ton by festivals. And so, you know, if they're not like festival quality or like festival brand, but I still love them, then I'll still put some short form stuff out there on Vimeo. But HBO really put us on a different level. Like winning that contest was like, oh, cool, we have all this exposure now. The platform came first, and then we were like, okay, now we're gonna get people to continue engaging. And they encouraged us in that, and we just kind of learned, you know, by being encouraged to do it for that. So we came to it like completely by accident, but we've learned a lot from it.
I think also it's important for people to know, who are watching this panel right now, there's not one specific process or way for online distribution. It's kind of like the wild, wild west right now. And thank God there are so many platforms out there like Short of the Week or Vimeo Staff Pick or all kinds of distribution. Even there's distribution focused for like LGBTQ content or films that are focused for women-led content. It's teach their own. Everybody has their own process, I think.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important to underline, is, you know, that not everybody's path, there's no like one size fits all sort of path. And it's interesting that, you know, it's online distribution, and most people in their mind, most of you in the audience are probably thinking, oh, that means that I throw it up on Vimeo and just kind of like hope and pray that some people stumble upon it or something like that. But you guys, you know, having gone through the contest and winning the HBO prize, you know, technically everything is online nowadays. That's online distribution as well. Your film is on demand. People can go seek it out if you have an HBO subscription and watch it. And I wonder what you guys have felt like the reception has been from being on such a prestigious platform that is sort of available to be watched on demand from people around the world. Have you been getting great feedback from that, from having your film out there in the world, even though it's not an open platform like YouTube?
For us with HBO, yeah, I think we've been really. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Sorry, we're getting a little bit of feedback from you, but continue.
Yeah, HBO really kicked the door open for us, where, you know, those 3 letters really help you walk into a room. And the most like the thing that we benefited the most from that experience was, again, connecting with an audience and realizing that our stories, the idea of like representation, if we wanted to do the intention, it was actually reaching people. You know, they would DM us the messages on Twitter, like how they were impacted by the film, or how they saw themselves in the film, or they had a family member who went through a similar situation. So in that essence, above like the whole, like, you know, like the prestige of HBO, beyond that, it was really more about finding those people that we wouldn't necessarily find through a festival or Vimeo or wherever. These are just completely random people that just watched the film for what it was.
And I think a lot of it has come from us posting on our personal pages too, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. Like, we went ahead and we made this Facebook landing page for Halwa the film, and we did the same thing on Instagram. But what we noticed was that every time we posted as ourselves, how we felt about, you know, what we'd made or what we were trying to say, that's when the most people reached out. And we've had people from like Pakistan who don't have access to HBO being like, hey, you want to come, you know, talk to a panel on such and such day over at this girls' college or whatever. So yeah, I think that gave us a wider reach than HBO by itself would have. But obviously having it on HBO has been
yeah,
awesome.
that's a great point, and maybe one that we can dive into a little bit later. But my experiences have shown that speaking as an individual is much more effective on social media platforms, rather than speaking as a production company or as a page or as a film or something like that. Putting that sort of human touch really invites a lot more feedback and a lot more interaction than sort of putting yourself at a remove. And it's something that a lot of filmmakers have to ask themselves. It's like, how much do I want to be out there? How much do I want to be managing being like a personality on the internet in service of my work, versus how much do I just want to kind of be at a remove and let the work speak for itself? So maybe that's something that we can get into a little bit later. Maybe it's actually a great segue for Woody and SJ, because, you know, your personalities are very large and it's very much a part of your work. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that and how you've used the internet to kind of facilitate the growth in your careers and your work.
Yeah, well, Woody and I both, like, we've been doing comedy and improv and sketch and all that, and the internet and sketch videos really did everything for me personally. Like 4 years ago, I was making sketches, you know, and with like either by myself or like with Woody or with friends. And like that really gave me not only exposure, but like Nirav and Gayatri are saying, is like the social impact and like confidence that you get from that. oh, people are listening, and it's like random Asians in Ohio, and you're like, yes, random Asians in Ohio represent. And
They
so
need this most of all.
yeah, I know. Like, you are what matter to me. So yeah, like that was a huge thing. Like, I think growing up in a world where like you don't see yourself, especially as Asian Americans, like seeing or just hearing and getting DMs or getting messages from people that it resonated with them was like a big deal. And that's why this festival is like is so important to me. Yeah, Woody and I I don't know what else to say. I mean, we made this for the internet.
Yeah.
We weren't planning on really submitting it to festivals. We were just like, we feel like this is a very strong and funny concept. Fucking Japanese is a sketch that we wrote for this comedy festival, and then we actually performed it on stage. And on stage, everyone, like, it was so good. Like, may I say? And we're like, let's record this. By record, I mean film. That's not so like, sorry, lay people terms. So yeah, no, the internet was a huge thing for us.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm really curious because I'm not from a comedy background. I'm more from a, short film festival kind of background. And so like, what were the alternatives for kids from Ohio if you weren't putting sketches out on the internet, if you weren't doing podcasts? Is it, honing your craft at open mic nights or joining, like a comedy troupe or something like that? Is that what the kind of alternatives are?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how germane it is, but like in the improv scene, like literally there's people in Ohio who are like, we want to do improv. We don't know how to do that. And we're literally just watching UCB videos on YouTube, like being like, oh, this is how you do it, because we have no access to it otherwise. Like, because the people who do want to pursue it professionally end up going normally to like Chicago, New York, LA, whatever. But a lot of it is, I think if you are hungrily looking for something, you're probably going to find it. And then when you do find it, it's probably going to resonate. That's, I think, the goal with all of us. Like whenever we're making something, the idea is we are driven to make that thing, not necessarily to be like with the goal of like, now this will impact your life, perfect audience member, but because we want to make it in whatever medium it makes sense to be in, like stage, film, whatever. And then like in the same way that Esther was saying, like people coming up, reaching out to you, being like, oh, I really like this podcast episode or whatever it is. It's the equivalent of like doing a live show on stage and then an audience member being like, that was a really interesting like stand up or whatever you did. Like it's that moment of connection. Also what you're saying, Jason, is like the person to person thing is like, when you said that, it connected with me. And that on whatever scale we're talking about is kind of what drives the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were curious about this for sure. That we had a lot of anecdotal information from, thousands of filmmakers now that we've curated on our website over the years. But we did a survey, and we've done maybe 2 or 3 surveys in the past. The most important thing that we keep consistently hearing back from creators is that, number one, overwhelmingly, when they say, why did you pursue an online release? It's because they want to find audience. They want to connect. They want their work to connect with other people in hopefully a meaningful way, but, maybe even just in a very superficial way. It doesn't matter. They want to get some of that feedback. They want some of that personal validation, especially when you're starting out, that, people are watching, people care, people have feelings or opinions about it. The second thing they tell us is that they wanted to have, potential impact on the advancement of their career. That's the second most important thing they say. And maybe that's actually the one thing that they don't say. So it was like, the survey was saying something like 80% of filmmakers were saying their number one priority was audience. You had another 60% who were saying career advancement was very important to them. And then all the way at the bottom, in number 3 was they wanted to make money, which is always the bugaboo. And we actually have an audience member who's asked that. So maybe we can not go into the Q&A now, but just sort of address that person's question, Winton, who said, do you think it's all possible for short filmmakers to make some money back on shorts? I don't personally think that money should be a guiding influence. I wonder if any of you guys have had positive experiences with monetization opportunities for your short films?
It's never worked for me. Like one of my videos, when I remember when it went viral a few years ago, I got like reached. I swear I was talking to fucking Russian bots. Like they were like, "Do you want to make money?" Like, I'm sorry, I should not put on a random accent. But do you want to make money? 99 cents per view, like some weird shit. I don't know.
It's funny that you're a Russian voice instead of a robot voice, considering you're a Russian bot.
It's because I'm a fucking racist. That's what it is.
Right. That.
So, yeah, no, I have never made money off of a short film. And also when I have tried to make money, like if I go in with that thought, the creative is compromised. Like, you kind of are in it for, I think, that maybe the wrong reason.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario is someone would produce it and you break even and you don't spend your own money.
Yeah.
But in terms of profiting, it's like, that's a stretch.
Yeah, I would generally agree. I think the landscape is much better than it was, maybe 5 years ago. You always have distributors who are willing to take on films. This is mostly a kind of an Asian and European strategy, less so an American strategy, because they have television and satellite and trains that are buyers. And so films can make upwards of $5,000-$10,000 top shelf festival films there. But here in the stateside, there is a phenomenon of more digital first distributors who do offer a little bit of money. So you have editorial outlets like Topic that were acquiring shorts for online distribution recently. You have platforms like Dust, which does sci-fi shorts, and Alter that do horror shorts that do a minimum guarantee upfront. And then furthermore, you're starting to get platforms that are experimenting with revenue sharing. So if you go with their platform on YouTube, you can potentially monetize through advertising, get a revenue share there. Amuletto is a YouTube channel that started to do this. Short of the week, in full disclosure, we started doing this about a couple months ago and starting to do revenue share with some of our YouTube films. So just for give the lay of the land, that's my answer regarding monetization for shorts. But I just don't think it should be the priority. If you can collect some money without necessarily disrupting your strategy, great, but don't make it a linchpin of your strategy.
I have a question actually for Nirav and Gayatri. Did you guys get any money winning that award on HBO?
Yeah, we
for doing it.
That was probably the only time that is going to happen to us with a short. We did make decent money, and we made it for so cheap that we actually made a profit, which was awesome. It was real, but we didn't know that we were gonna get that going into it. We just knew we were, at some point we were going to give up on editing the short, and I remember Nirav saying like I was totally unhappy with the cut at that point. I remember Nirav saying, at the very least, we'll get in the room and we'll show people what we're trying to say, and those people can check that out, and even if we don't make it onto that platform, we still show them something different, because I think we're the first South Asian team to get on Visionaries. And so that's the attitude we went in with, and then it was a huge bonus to find out that they were going to license them, and all three finalists got licensed. Right?
Is it an upfront fee, or do you have like residuals based on views? I'm just curious.
Upfront. Yeah, and that was that.
Let's get into brass tacks a little bit regarding tactics. How do you go about spreading the word when you have something that you're releasing online? I'll start with SJ and Woody again, if you wanted to maybe tackle that. Are there different, do you pursue multiple platforms? Do you have a favorite platform? And, what are some of maybe your best tips and tricks for kind of revving up interest on those various places?
I think ultimately it's a long game. Everything is built on relationships. So it's like, when I first started making videos, it was like, I would just tell friends and then like post them like, Facebook groups or whatever that I thought it was germane to. I posted on Reddit, which is a nightmare.
People are mean.
Yeah, it's a howling vortex of fucking masochism. But like, not only, but like that's all just like building. That's all baby steps, right? And the idea is like, I think if your work is good, then you create a relationship with like the editor of HuffPost or the whoever, like people who have a megaphone position where they can actually promote your work. And I think if you consistently create quality work, then by your 5th or 6th video, people are like, okay, I know this person's work. I know I'm pre-sold on it. You know what I mean? And that begets the next thing. And so it's like a slow tide, I think. I think there's like a misnomer of like, oh, this video is like, I hit oil and now like I'm signing all these deals and like whatever. Like it takes a long time to build that.
Yeah, we both have like separate lists of contacts that we've like created over or just nurtured throughout the years. And like whether it be like an outlet, like a Vulture or whatever, but that will really, yeah. I mean, and also like on a smaller scale, like just putting it out through social media, like you also like get like kind of fans that way too, in this weird way. Like not saying that like I have a ton of fans, but like, if you see like one like, I don't know, I have like a hot 20 fans that like are loyal to me. What am I saying? But yeah, no, I'm saying like, I mean, it kind of goes back to like the personal relationship and like that kind of validation and like knowing that you're speaking to people. Like I love Rando in Ohio and also Substitute Ohio for any other state. That kind of, I don't know, I like spreading like on a small scale that way too.
Yeah, I think so there's like two ideas. You're creating like sort of a loyal fan base that will follow you from project to project, but then you also want to cultivate, tastemakers who can amplify through an audience that they are already been spending years developing, either by themselves or institutionally. I think it's something, it's funny that because social media has kind of swallowed the world, that, tastemakers, it feels like, have become less important in the promoting of work, and yet they're still really valuable. Because I think there's a common misperception that things that go viral because, a bunch of individuals like it and share it with a bunch of like 3 or 4 people, when it's really more like, if you look at how something goes viral, it like goes 1, and then it finds somebody who can spread it to 100,000. And I was wondering if you had any tips about cultivating, say, relationships with Vulture or the editor of HuffPost. You don't have to get too much into details, but how does somebody who does not have those relationships potentially approach those kind of tastemakers?
I mean, for us, part of it was I've done cold DM'd to people on Twitter, and normally 9 times out of 10 that's nothing, no response, obviously. But also like just being in the scene, it's like from the comedy scene, like I ended up knowing someone from Vulture because I did comedy with them at UCB, for example, or like, it's just people in your cohort. Like if everyone's like kind of moving ahead, doing the same thing, like wanting to do a career in comedy, and like eventually those people start having careers in comedy, and you are right there with them, like side by side with them.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Maegan?
Yeah, sometimes the cold DMs also do work, like the random tweets. Like I remember a few years ago, Phil Yu of Angry Asian Man was like kind of like one of the first in the space of like promoting Asian content, and like he was like such a role model to me. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy is calling himself angry. Ooh, that's so bad. And like, I was like, ooh, how provocative. And he's Asian, crazy. And then and then I remember I was doing a Kickstarter for one of my shorts, and he like reposted it, and it was like Angry Asian Man at angryasianman.com. I'm like, yeah, this is fucking going nowhere. And then he did. So, so yeah. Sorry, I know someone else is about to speak, and I may have steamrolled.
No, I was just going to kick it over to Maegan and ask if she had any sort of thoughts about, how she approached In Full Bloom and getting the word out on that. And, you also have relevant experience with music videos that have kind of their whole marketing apparatus from the label and the artists behind them. And maybe you had some insights on some good strategies.
Yeah, I'm not good with social media, I would say. So I'm not necessarily like gonna say that whatever I did worked, but I also have done a lot of cold emailing and cold DMing. So I remember when my Mitski video came out, I emailed Angry Asian Man, for example. And I was like, hey, do you want to, and he posted it. And I never met him and didn't even respond to the email. So it's like, sometimes you just, which was great. I was like, happy you posted. I just mean that you really just have to, I think, try to put yourself out there and like message as many people. So when I'm doing a music video, I don't really have any control over where it premieres. But I do know some people now who write for different music magazines and blogs. And so once the video comes out, I'll send it to them. And even if I know them, sometimes they're like, yeah, we're not going to write about this. And sometimes they're like, oh, that's really cool. Do you want, can you give us a quote about it? So I think that just being really unafraid to hear no and just get rejected is like the key to getting out there a little bit. For the short film, I think I made some mistakes. Like for one example, I went festivals first and then I put it online, and I actually sort of regret that a little bit because I think that because of the film that I made, it's a little bit hard to categorize in terms of genre. It might have actually been better if I had tried to gather a little bit more of like an online following and interpretation of it before festivals saw it, because I think the thing that's important to remember is that these decisions don't get made in a vacuum. Like festival programmers do know what is online. They do know like what short of the week's interested in. They do know what the Vimeo staff's interested in. And that's just, as I was trying to say earlier, it's like another way that you generate hype for your project, even for festivals. And it can go the other way too. Like if you get into a really good festival, that might help other platforms like notice your work. But I think, I mean, I don't know if I'm really answering the question because I didn't really have a strategy, I guess. I don't think I did the best thing. I was just really hoping that Short of the Week would accept it. So it wasn't like the smartest necessarily, like, this is how we're going to do it way.
I think, that's a really smart way to go about it, is to find at least like a home or a base that can provide the premiere and also provide like a baseline of exposure, but then also something that you can leverage that sort of premiere, that acceptance with to validate as you pitch to other places. So, it's easier to go to a random blog that you admire if you can say, here, this is going to have Short of the Week laurels attached to it, or it's going to have Nowness laurels attached to it, or something of that nature. And I think your musing was perfect because it actually jived with a question that one of our viewers submitted, which is, would you ever prioritize online distribution over a festival run? Do you see advantages in doing that? And it sounded like you were answering that in the affirmative because you think that your film was a little bit out there, a little bit unclassifiable. Did you get a lot of festival play and fee waivers from in-person festivals on the back of the online success?
Yeah, I would say I got a lot more. It was like 50-50. I mean, I submitted to a lot of places because I'm a pretty big believer, obviously, in just like, assuming I have bad odds and just being like, anyone want it? Anyone? So I submitted to a lot of places. And so, yeah, I think that the festivals are awesome. I really enjoy going to them in person, but also with like the kind of job I have, I often can't go. So it was also actually really nice when it was online because I actually felt like I got more engagement than because I couldn't go to like half the festivals I got into that I really wanted to. Like I got into Fantastic Fest, which I really wanted to go to, but I had just started a new job and it's like I can't go to a festival for a week. Like this is a huge financial obligation, time obligation. So that's the tricky part with festivals too. I think is just they're great, but it's also hard to physically be present at them, both financially and just like time wise. So yeah,
they're very classist in that regard. I think it's not something that gets talked about enough.
Because it's a bummer. Because I wanted to go.
I think the two main advantages for festival stuff is one, you forget when you put so much stuff online that eventually there can be potentially a room full of people watching it and enjoying it and laughing and having like a shared communal audience reaction. And like I had like some shorts that were in Slam Dance last year, and like they were all online. So like I just made them and like they don't exist in my brain. You know what I mean? They just exist like abstractly as like a number on YouTube. But then you're in a room and people are like responding to it and they're like, oh, there's like a group of people laughing at the thing that I want them to laugh at. And that is like the visceral thing that I think you forget when you just kind of abstractly in your quarantine apartment or whatever. And the other thing I think for that festivals have going from this, that's just, it's the networking thing. It's the audience feedback loop, but on a professional level.
Yeah.
So it's like filmmakers are seeing it. They're like, oh, we are creatively aligned, not just like, I understand your identity or where you're coming from. It's like, this is the style of thing I want to also make. So like, let's exchange contact information.
I do think though that I've also actually gotten some of my most valuable relationships from it being online. Like for example, I mean, I'm just using this as an example, but like I've looked up to Andrew Thomas Wong for a really long time. And now because like he really likes my short, we like talk. And like that is not from a festival. You know what I mean? Like that's just from being online. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Like there was nothing better than sitting in an audience that was almost sold out at the Atlanta Film Festival and being like, oh, like this lands. I can't believe it lands. Of course that's great, but I will say, like, I didn't necessarily personally meet that many people. So I think you can meet people both ways. So it's like, it's just throwing it out there that it's not necessarily like you won't meet professional people if you put your thing online, just as an example.
I mean, I generally tell people, and even now people are a bit surprised when I tell them this, which is, you know, I don't try to minimize how great festivals are at all, but for professional networking, like your online release is your primary release for even serious festival films, because, you know, I find lots of filmmakers who play, you know, high level A-list film festivals who don't get a lot of interest from agents, managers, producers, development people, whom the week that they go online are taking, you know, 5 to 10 generals. And sometimes that doesn't really equate to anything, but, you know, getting that FaceTime, getting on those radars is important. And those are people that you can go back out to in the future, even if that initial project doesn't work. And it gives you great feedback too, as you're kind of developing your creative voice on, you know, what the market is looking for, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, talking to people who can help your career, always a good idea. And I think people can be surprised by how much of that comes out of a successful online release.
Just as an example, if it's helpful, is like numbers. Like I remember when I got into Atlanta, I got an email from a manager. When I got into another festival, I got like another email. And then when it was on Short of the Week, I got like 10 emails in the same day. So I do think that, and full disclosure, none of them led anywhere. But, you know, but that doesn't matter. Like you just got the emails, right? So it was a really stark difference in this kind of slow, like some people are looking at the programming at festivals. And I didn't get into anything as big as like Sundance or Sundance or TIFF or anything. So maybe it would be different if it had happened that way, or South by Southwest, but like, or whatever they're considered to be good. And so that just an example though, of like, it was a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious though to hear Gayatri and Nirav's impressions, because, you know, you guys did a more traditional festival run, and then you got this amazing HBO opportunity, and that's something to speak for, you know, a more established path, because who knows, I can't speak for HBO, but maybe that opportunity wouldn't have arisen had the film been just sitting on Vimeo for 9 months. What do you guys think?
I mean, Visionaries was our first thing. That's what kicked the whole festival run.
Oh, really?
off.
Okay.
Yeah. once that happened, it really opened a lot of doors, and a lot of festivals wanted to program it just because of word of mouth. Our tactic was like two ways. Like HBO had their own PR marketing team that was handling visionaries, but the thing that we've kind of learned along the way is sometimes these bigger networks and whatnot, they don't necessarily know how to infiltrate our communities, specifically like South Asian communities. I don't think APA Visionaries has ever, they've never had South Asian people in their contest. So our tactic was like, okay, really old school, like what do you have to offer, right? So when we put out our own press release along with HBO's press release, and we kind of listed like why this film was important to watch. You know, Halwa also became the first South Asian short film on HBO. So that was like another leading factor with like press, especially like in the South Asian communities, utilizing that energy to kind of keep the word of mouth going. That was our tactic. And again, like we tried like social media, we tried having our separate film pages, but it was always more beneficial when it was like us, the individual, speaking about it or posting about it. And in terms of like what you all are speaking about in terms of online versus in person, we've kind of had like a 50-50 experience with that, right, Gayatri? Where like a lot of the initial, like when the press release happened through deadline or whatever, we had a lot of agents and managers reach out to us via social media, which is also important. Like filmmakers, please like keep your social medias like on top of your game, because people are watching and people will look up your work through that. But also just even at the festivals, like we had executives and development people come up to us and say, hey, like we'd love to have a general with you. And yeah, just like I think the biggest lesson that I learned that I intentionally went into like the festival run and online, I think, is learning how to be accessible. I learned this from like watching, like if you go to during award season, if you go and watch a screening somewhere, the filmmakers or the stars that are the most impactful stay behind and connect with people. It's really like old school or just like common sense, but they stay behind, connect with people, make themselves accessible. So Gayatri and I, we've intentionally, any film festivals, any online thing, we stay behind and connect with people, because even if there's 10 people in an audience, if you talk to one person, that one person is then a part of your specific audience, and you cultivate that through a number of festivals. You've built your own base for your next project. And likewise with all of you, we've kind of did a bunch of cold calling and cold emailing. And to the people that are watching, I think it's important when you reach out to these tastemakers or media or whatnot, be prepared. You know, don't just do an ask. Like have your frequently asked questions ready, your quotes ready. You know, have what we did was we had like a Google Drive where we put our bios, our headshots, the press release, the trailer, frequently asked questions, quotes, whatnot, and then a screener. So you package it to people so it makes it easier for them. And that really helped, because then
incredibly important. Yeah.
Yeah, because then it just kind of went faster.
Yeah, make it, you talked about, cold emailing Angry Asian and how he didn't even reply, but he posted. It's really important when you do a cold email pitch to make so that the person has everything they need in the initial email to turn it around without even necessarily getting back to you. And I think you're speaking to something really powerful too, is, we've all have a long history of romanticizing like the difficult creative genius. But the truth is like being an asshole doesn't get you anywhere. Be nice. Be nice, and it'll serve you much better overall in your career, because people remember that, and you never know who you're going to meet along the way, who it's going to be in a position to give you a leg up down the road. So
I think also, just to add to what Nirav was saying, something I've noticed he does a lot of, and that just comes from who he is as a person, is he's always engaging with other people's content and like the community at large, be it the South Asian community, the filmmaker community, people trying to do something. And so a lot of our like publicity or word of mouth was a byproduct of that. He was genuinely, and it's something that I also try to do more now, but I'm not as much. I'm not on social media that much, to put it bluntly. But I find that, you know, he's really gotten people excited and involved, and he's always willing to like talk to them about our process and getting their films out there as well.
Great. I think we're running short on time, so I'm going to try to jump into one of the last questions. Unfortunately, it kind of goes off of what we were just talking about. You know, we were talking about this festival versus online difference, and yet we're in a world right now in which the two have kind of smashed into each other with festivals going virtual. Do any of you have a piece that is going around festivals right now and are partaking in these virtual festivals, and how's that experience been like? What's different or unique or challenging or great about this kind of world that filmmakers are currently traversing?
I just premiered my next film called Thank You Come Again at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. It was part of the On With the Camera Fellowship there. You know, it's been interesting. Like I've gone, like the trailer was shared over like 80 times in like a week, which is good news. That means people are interested and whatnot. But I just miss that in-person, like immediate connection, talking to people. It's been nice that a lot of other people have been reaching out and watching the film, maybe more. I don't know. We don't know the statistics yet, but something just feels missing. Like I think Woody, you talked about it. It just feels like just something just happened. It's like now blank in my head. Like it isn't. There's no like closure with like a
It only exists as like an abstract concept unless you're in that room with people and seeing their reactions, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, my experiences have been, I haven't seen a festival that has been able to adequately synthesize this sort of serendipity of late night at the bar or filmmaker happy hour, sort of the randomness and the chance of that. But I feel like some of the events that are structured have been good. So I was on, you know, I've taken part in some, you know, meet the industry roundtable kind of stuff for various film festivals in the last 2 or 3 months. And it's a step up from email. You know, it's real-time communication. You can see faces, and there's some relationships and some content that I've discovered through talking to filmmakers through those kind of structured interactions that have been really promising, and stuff is coming out of it. So, you know, I would encourage you, you know, if you are doing the virtual festival tour, to ask your festival programmers or, you know, industry hospitality people, like, what is your festival doing in terms of facilitating these kind of interactions with your fellow filmmakers, with industry, if that's part of it. And, you know, it may feel funny, it may feel weird, but take advantage of it, and, you know, take advantage of anything the festival has to offer. We are running out of time, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys in order once again to just do a kind of final pitch on what you're working on right now, where people can check you out. SJ, you're at the top of my screen, so go for it.
Hey, hi.
Hey.
Wait, so the question was what? It was to say what
What do we got right now?
What do you got right now? Where can people find your work and interact with you and,
Oh yeah,
potentially cyber
well, Woody
stalk you?
and I, amazing. Woody and I have this podcast called Emotional Slut, and something that came out of a lot of angst during quarantine, and we think it's great. So hope you guys.
The logline is Americans are sexually repressed, Asians are emotionally repressed, so Asian Americans are double repressed. And then it's all just like we're talking about like our weird emotional outbursts or like dating disaster stories. And we take like audience submitted like anonymous dating disaster stories and then we like break them down. It's basically therapy.
Beautiful.
Therapy meets comedy. I think it's funny. Yeah, so we're doing that. So yeah, check us out. We're on sjandwoody.com. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
What's your social media poison of choice? Should they follow your Instagram?
Oh God, it truly is poison. Great word. I mean, that was the other thing about like talking about social media. Like it is a like I'm not naturally like Gayatri, like, social media oriented. Like it's hard for me to like, but it's work. It is work.
It's a lot of work. And it's also handbag companies and watch companies can sell you their handbags and watches more effectively.
Yeah, you can get marketed too. I'm at SJ my son. That's my Instagram. I'm on Instagram the most.
I'm at Woody Phil.
Cool. Megan?
I'm just more. I'm retired, so I'm no longer
yes,
really directing anything, but just writing things for a post-COVID future, maybe one day. If people want to follow me, I guess I'm generally more on Instagram, though I don't post as much. My handle's my last name, Houangm, which is 3 vowels in a row because it's a weird mix of Vietnamese and Chinese smushed together to make a fake last name. And then my handle's the same on Twitter, but I'm mostly tweeting about how the entire administration has COVID. So I don't know if that's the kind of content you want to follow, but feel free.
I love it.
I'm got the fire hose pointed right in my mouth for that. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm literally like looking at the New York Times chart, like who's next? Curious.
Nirav, Gayatri. Nirav, you want to go first?
It's funny because like I don't like the concept of social media as much either, but I've kind of changed my perspective about it where this is business and it's okay to just fucking plaster anything and everything about your film and your face on it. So that helps me make peace with it. And I have a separate account where like I do all my artsy shit,
Is it a Finsta? That's what the kids are doing these days.
Yeah.
Wait, is it really?
No, I mean, people will follow it. It doesn't matter. But it's like where I can just be myself. Like I don't really care about promoting anything or whatever. But I've just started my festival run with Thank You Come Again. I'm also working on an animated short in a new CBS program, and I'm developing my first feature. You can follow me at Nirav Bhakta _555, and good luck finding that name.
Thank you. And Gayatri.
Yeah, I'm also developing my first feature, which I hoped to shoot in India, but that's going to be put off for a little bit as the world struggles with a disease. So Nirav and I are in a weekly check-in group where we're writing our features. But I'm also, I met some local filmmakers up here in Vancouver who are doing this super weird, like Lynchian horror web series. And it's something I've never done before. So I'm taking like a total left turn into shooting one of those webisodes probably next month. And interestingly enough, and appropriately for this panel, we're going to release it directly onto Instagram. Because as the writer put it, we need to shake up that platform a little bit and put something really weird and fucked up on there. So
I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, go on. I was just going to plug my Instagram. I have a Insta, and I posted a lot of personal shit on there. That was my original Instagram, and then I was like, I need a professional account where I can like see who's engaging with my stuff. So I made my public one, which is my first name and my middle name. So it's Gayatri Everett. God, that's gonna take a long time to spell. GAYATRIBERITT. Or just search me on there.
Amazing. All right, I want to thank everybody on the panel for your good thoughts and deep insights. Thank you all in audience land for tuning in. I hope you got something useful out of this. Thanks to the festival for hosting us and giving us all this opportunity. And we're out.